Hi, everyone. Hopefully, everyone can hear me. My name is Stephen Pu, and welcome to the Taraxa April development update. So, just a logistical reminder, we are doing updates every single month on the second Thursday of each month. So, if you want to keep up with these spoken updates, please mark that on your calendar. We also have monthly update write ups that are published before these spoken updates, these spaces updates. And everything that's covered in these updates are written down actually in those monthly updates. In each update, we'll also answer some questions that were posed by the community through the submission form. We'll have another link for the submission form later today after the spaces. So if you have a question, please submit it ahead of time, and let's get to it. All right. So for April, here are some of the things that I think the community is very interested in. The first one is the bridge. We're still on track to complete the bridge and deliver it by the end of Q2, which is the end of June. And we have completed all the components of the bridge, individual components. We've completed all the components, and we have been working to perform end-to-end testing on an internal development network inside on an internal development network for Taraxa. So the next steps are we're going to be conducting an audit in the middle of May, which is the middle of this month. The audit itself will take only 1 week and plus 1 day, so it won't take very long at all. And we will then later on be deploying it onto the test net and then subsequently onto the mainnet. So be on the lookout for those announcements. Those are coming. And again, we're still on track to deliver the bridge by the end of second quarter, end of June. But a reminder that security of the bridge is still the paramount and overriding priority here. It's a lot more important than the delivery date. We're not going to say, let's rush to deliver it if we think there's something that, where security is concerned. We're still going to make sure that the bridge is above everything else, extremely secure. So that's the bridge. Everything is on track. The next thing is the hackathon. So the hackathon submission wrapped up last week as of May 3rd. That was the submission deadline. We've had a very decent turnout, and we've had 97 hackers registered. We had 30 projects submitted. We reviewed and passed 19 of them. And there are 3 projects in artificial intelligence, 12 in gaming, and then 4 in DeFi. So we're entering the judging period for the next. I guess this week and next week are the judging period. So right now the judges are taking a very close look at all these 19 projects, and we're going to select the winners. A very important thing to remind everyone is that the hackathon is really just a part of our overall developer outreach. And we really want to make sure that everyone knows here that regardless of whether or not you win in the hackathon, you are welcome to apply to the grant program. So we have a $10 million grant program ongoing to grow the ecosystem and fund, give small projects a head start into the Taraxa ecosystem. So obviously the grant is taraxa.io/grant, taraxa.io/grant. So go to that website and submit a grant application if you haven't already. Everyone everyone is obviously encouraged to do so, regardless of whether or not you've won or even participated in the hackathon. So anyway, may the best projects win for the Taraxa Tinkerfest. All right, the next topic is the Aspen update. So last month, we have the Aspen upgrade actually activated on the Taraxa mainnet on April 3rd. And for those of you who don't know, the Aspen upgrade caps the total Terra supply to 12 billion. Terra is the gas token, the native token on Taraxa network. It caps the Terra token to 12 billion and puts the network staking yields on an exponentially decaying curve. So it makes the overall ecosystem much more sustainable, both in the short term as well as in the long term. In the short term, stakers as well as node operators get a very decent yield for the work and the opportunity costs that are incurring. And it also in the long term, because it's capped, because it has an exponentially decaying curve, it's the entire supply is quite sustainable. The other impact that we actually inserted into the Aspen upgrade is that it actually makes yield far more fair, right? There were a few ways where the validators prior to the Aspen update could sort of game the network's algorithm a little bit and actually earn unfairly, I think, earn rewards that are above what other people are earning. Those gaming mechanisms have been removed, and we actually did a study of the distribution of staking yields on different validators pre-Aspen as well as post-Aspen. And post-Aspen, it has a much tighter spread in the distribution. I think pretty much all the yield rates are concentrated around 1 to 2 percentage points, as opposed to pre-Aspen where it was very widespread. So it's a lot more fair and makes the network a lot more healthy. This is just another reminder that as the development team, we're always constantly looking out for the health of the network to make sure that there aren't any ways that people could gain an unfair advantage over others. Right. So the Aspen upgrade, it's live. It was live April, and it's been working great. So all right. So recently we actually talked a little bit about Echo, which is a decentralized infrastructure built for AI agents on top of Taraxa. So we have been building this platform for quite a while, and if you've been following Taraxa, you definitely would have heard about Echo for for many years back. So we started building this back in 2021, I think. Yeah. This was a part of our larger kind of pivot into more crypto relevant use cases. Prior to that, we have been building a lot of use cases that actually had nothing to do with crypto or finance or tokens. So according to, we wanted to build something that the community can really understand and actually use. So that's why we started building Echo. So what is Echo? It's actually, like I said, it's a decentralized infrastructure for AI agents, and specifically, it has access to a very unique data set. And the data set is Telegram data, right? Telegram chat data. So Echo is a platform that has access to over 20,000 public English-speaking Telegram crypto groups. This data set is extremely interesting because they tend to be very leading in the way that they indicate signals on what is actually happening. The discussions are very chaotic but very organic, unlike any other social platform that we've seen. So it has incredible predictive power, and it usually contains the latest information around community sentiment and emerging trends, right, that are happening within the crypto ecosystem, the larger crypto ecosystem. The Echo platform, decentralized infrastructure, has over 100 million messages, and it ingests over 500,000 messages every single day. And these numbers are going to go up geometrically many times over when the market is good, right? So right now, these numbers are low because we've observed that these numbers go up many times over during large bull markets, such as the ones that we've seen in 2021 and 2022. So it's a platform with an incredible amount of data. But also, just having raw data isn't necessarily enough. We've also had a set of built-in AI models that are fine-tuned to the data set that are used to filter out spam and spammers. There are tons. If you spend any time in Telegram at all, there's a lot of spam, a lot of spammers, a lot of bots. We actually do a really good job at training AI models to filter out the noise away from the signal so that you can get a cleaner data set if that's what you wanted to. There are AI models that are fine-tuned to do topic modeling, relevancy, summarization, classification, and a lot more, right? So I think we're going to be very happy to give everyone access to these AI models that we're fine tuned to the data set, so that you guys can actually, kind of play around with it, and everyone can kind of use it. A few dApps have been already built on the Echo platform, such as Transponder. I think we built another demo really last year called Hype, and there are a few more in the pipeline through the grant program as well as the hackathon that are going to be making use of Echo and its amazing data set and models. So please be on the lookout for that as well. We're working really hard to push out more features, as well as trying to convince other more developers and more partners to work with Echo. I think in general, Echo as a platform has been a relatively we've gotten very positive responses from a lot of developers who we speak to, because it's such a unique data set, because it has such unique functionalities in terms of the fine-tuned models that we actually built into it to make sure that the data set is a lot more useful than just the raw set. So we also wrote a pretty extensive origin story about how Echo came about and where it's going on Twitter, actually. So you can look through our feeds and you'll be able to find it. We're going to be writing a lot more about Echo in the days and months to come as we as we see more applications, more development on it. So we're very excited about it. I think you will be as well. Okay, so from the questions, we're moving to the questions section. There were a few questions that were submitted, and we're going to answer them here. There are a lot of questions that ask about the same thing, so we're going to merge them here as well. All right. So starting from simpler questions, moving to more complicated questions. First one, this gets asked over and over again. Do we have plans to build our own wallet? No, we don't have plans to build our own wallet. The only reason is because there are amazing wallets such as MetaMask out there already. And, I keep repeating this over and over again. MetaMask is the largest and probably one of the oldest wallets out there, open source wallets. It has hundreds of millions of users. It's never been hacked, and it's just a great wallet. It's very safe, right? When you're picking wallets, when don't use the latest, the latest newest thing. That's not really necessarily a good practice. You should try to use wallets that have been around for a very long time and has a good security track record. And MetaMask has a great security track record, and it's 100% compatible with with the Taraxa network. So please use things that have been tested and have gone through the fire. Things like MetaMask, and we have obviously Ledger is also compatible. Any hardware wallet that is compatible with Ethereum and can connect to MetaMask can work with Taraxa as well. So these are all, there are a lot of wallets, and we just had an integration with Tangent. So these are all great wallets that are out there. There's really no reason to expend a lot of development effort to build our own that potentially has a lot more risk, right, in terms of security to it. So, all right. The second question, I think people have been asking variations of this question for quite a while now. So I think people are asking whether or not there's going to be a project dashboard, which is the collection of all the projects in the ecosystem. So yes, the reason is that we are seeing quite a few projects actually coming through the hackathon as well as through the grant program that have exactly this functionality, right? I think there's a project that is submitted through the hackathon that is basically a ecosystem website. There's also another project in the grant program pipeline that is actually a portfolio manager. So you can manage all your assets that have been deployed on Taraxa. It's also a launchpad and a DEX all integrated into one. And there are a few more DEXs and launchpads as well that are coming through the grant as well as the hackathon. So there are a lot of these, I think, applications that are coming out in the ecosystem that have this dashboard portfolio type of functionality. and we're going to be working very closely with them to make sure that they get to market quickly. Um, the Explorer, I know that this is on the roadmap. When we've actually completed it, the Explorer has a token awareness functionality, right? So the token awareness basically means, at its most basic level, when you're seeing basic tokens such as ERC20, 721, and I think the newer standard is 11 something. I forgot the exact number. But when you're seeing transfers and transactions that are happening within those standardized contracts, and you'll actually be able to recognize them like as a transfer, for example, on the Explorer, and not just contract call. So that has already been built, but there have been a lot of changes and updates to the indexer because of the ongoing work. So we keep having to re-index everything. So it hasn't really been deployed yet. So we actually finished it on time, but we just haven't deployed it on time. So it's definitely coming. We haven't forgotten about it. It's something that's on the top of our to-do list. And All right, so you'll see that coming as well. So as you know, in summary, is there going to be a project dashboard? Yes, there are several projects that are in the pipeline for the grant program and hackathon that have that functionality. There are, our own Explorers token awareness functionality has already been built. It just hasn't been deployed yet because the indexer had to be constantly updated and re-indexed due to all the features that we're building into it. So anyway, that's all. That's all coming. There was another question around sort of what kind of real world problem is Taraxa solving. So this actually is something that we repeat quite a bit, that we say that Taraxa wants to solve real world problems. And the reason is because the project, when it was founded, we all thought that the real world or the world at large could actually benefit greatly from decentralization as a way to fill in trust gaps. So we were working on a lot of different projects where we think that when decentralization comes in, it fills the trust gap. It can actually start automating processes and mechanisms so that it makes everything go much more quickly. Right? That's that to us. That's the whole point of decentralization. Just like how Dexis automates trading, they're called automated market makers, and that's automating a financial process. We're trying to automate processes that are non-financial in nature. So we were really never satisfied with just building a layer one, right? So we wanted to make sure that the layer one that we're building were out there solving real problems. So we had a lot of applications, I think, in the beginning of the project that we were working with a variety of partners. Things like automotive sharing, secondhand car sales, asset leasing, intellectual property records and transfers, and handshake agreements in construction. I mean, lots of things we're working on. But I think the compromise that we made was the crypto community at large were not really interested in use cases that had nothing to do with finance, nothing to do with tokens. Like I was talking about before, we pivoted into building Echo because that was a platform that had this kind of straddles both sides a little bit. It's not purely financial in nature, but at the same time, it has financial use cases that I think the crypto community could really be interested in and get behind on. So this is what we mean when we say solve real world problems. Is that we've always had a interest ever since the founding of the project to really leverage decentralization to enable a lot more automation by filling trust gaps. And anyway, so that's what we're doing. In addition to actually building a layer one, we have always been a team that's very interested in figuring out how we can leverage decentralization to really solve real world problems, right? Okay. Um, so the last question that we saw is a quite fair question. So how are we as Taraxa going to stay competitive with all these high throughput, high speed networks that are coming out? Lots of them, have claims of much higher throughput, right, than what we're claiming. Okay, so that's a fair question. So first of all, the throughput and the speed performances the 5K TPS and the 3.7 second true finality. These are actually conservative estimates. So the reason is that there are a lot of, I would say, low hanging fruits in which we can actually go and pursue to very quickly optimize, not quickly, but we can optimize the network to go far beyond these numbers without really having any architectural changes or consensus changes. So these numbers, again, the 5,000 TPS and the 3.7 second true finality are conservative estimates, not estimates, are conservative performance numbers. And there we are aware of a pretty long list or pretty extensive list of things that we can do right away to actually make that go much faster. So that's the first point. The second point is that a lot of these higher throughputs really are achieved through sharding, and we wanted to introduce on our longer term roadmap. We wanted to introduce um, we wanted to introduce we wanted to introduce this idea of subgraphs, right? And the idea of subgraphs is that they're sharded sub networks. It turns the Taraxa network from a single shard into a sharded network where each application can actually, or each community or each use case can actually decide to instantiate their own network so that they don't really have to share the throughput with other networks if they don't really want to. So that's on the longer term roadmap. We've seen a trend. This is actually a trend that we've seen since 2017. Is that when a application grows bigger, when a use case grows bigger, when a D app grows really big, they tend to want to build their own layer ones, and that's that's a very natural, I think, progression in the evolution of any ecosystem, and we want to be able to enable that, right? And of course, we also want the any D app to actually use their own assets as a way to guarantee to contribute to security guarantees of these networks. So once we implement subgraphs, by the way, the technology that will make subgraph possible is actually the bridge that we're actually building. It's essentially we're going to be bridging between these sub networks to make them all work. We're going to be calling them subgraphs. So this gives us, I mean, 100 times, 1,000 times the throughput over the network than what we have now, because you can just keep on adding additional subgraphs. The last point I really want to make is that there are a lot of projects in crypto that makes crazy claims about their throughput, their finality, all these performance numbers. So most of them are false. They're not really true. They're not being truthful. And the vast majority of what remains made a lot of sacrifices on security as well as decentralization guarantees in order to get those numbers. Taraxa is dedicated into building a decentralized network, not a centralized network. And so the technology that we deploy, we design, deploy, are always going to have that as the first and foremost consideration. Because if you're building a centralized network, then there's no point. Might as well go use, Amazon or Google Cloud or something. So please be aware of that. I know technology might be a little bit hard to understand, but most of these things, if you dig into it, they're making egregious sacrifices to decentralization. And Taraxa doesn't. We don't have to. We designed it, and it's naturally fast, and because of the great consensus algorithms, because of the native EVM integration, because of the great block DAG design. So lots of advantages that we have from a technical perspective that makes it naturally fast and decentralized. So all right, so this wraps up our April update, development update, progress update. And as a summary, the bridge is on time. Hackathon's going great. We're moving to the judging phase. Aspen was activated last month. Everything going smoothly. It caps the overall Terra supply to 12 billion, and it made staking yields a lot more fair. And please be on the lookout for Echo, our decentralized infrastructure for AI agents. So you're going to be hearing a lot more of that coming. All right. So thank you very much. And in the future, every second Tuesday of each month, we're going to be doing these verbal updates through spaces and submit your questions ahead of time so that we can get it covered. Thank you very much for listening on this April development update for Taraxa. All right. Bye.